All right, welcome in. Good afternoon, everybody. The Maize and Blue Reviews afternoon live every day, weekdays at 1 o'clock. We're here talking about the latest in Michigan sports. Today, no different, and plenty of things to talk about, including the upcoming spring game on Saturday. We will get to that. Here we are, last day of March 2022. That's right, 2022. And the spring game will go off around high noon on Saturday. We will get to that. We'll hear from Michigan's offensive coordinator and the honorary captain for the spring game Saturdays, creating a little buzz. I'll give you my 2 cents on that coming up. So a few different things to talk about here on this Thursday. Let's get to those big questions on the spring game. And for that, we'll put up the questions on the screen. If you're listening via the podcast, that's great. Me being an old radio guy like that, now you get the visual element. You like to see the broadcast and how we look when we're talking about the different things. There's different ways to do that via YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all of that. So whichever way you're out there, we're glad to have you here. All right, biggest questions for the spring game coming up. The injuries, who's participating, who's not participating, and how are they doing, and will they be ready for fall camp? And that includes some big time names here. I just put a couple of them up that I would ask about. I do plan on going to the spring game, but I'm not going to the press box. I'm not going to the press conferences afterwards. But if I was, one of the questions that I would want to know is, how about the starting safety, the presumptive starting safety for next year, Rod Moore? We know that he had to miss a lot of spring with a procedure. How's he coming along? How's he doing? That'd be a big question for me. Ronnie Bell, who got hurt in last year's opener against Western Michigan. Ronnie Bell was awesome in that game. He had a 76-yard touchdown, Michigan's number one wide receiver. And after the game, everyone was like, yeah, Michigan looked pretty good, pretty explosive. But, man, the injury to Ronnie Bell, that really hurts. How's Ronnie Bell coming along? And, what's his timetable to be ready for the summer phase and certainly for fall camp? And that'd be something that I would want to know. Big question. And then the other one here, I don't have to bury the lead, but heading into spring ball, the biggest question that Michigan fans had was about the quarterback competition. I was right there with them. It was fascinating. You've got Michigan winning the Big Ten for the first time in so long. Cade McNamara at the controls did give way a few times, as you know, to the true freshman, J.J. McCarthy, the 5-star. Gave way in a few games and a few series here and there. And, what was that competition going to look like in the spring? But then we found out pretty quickly that McCarthy had a shoulder issue. And how that particular shoulder issue is coming along, what the timetable is for McCarthy. Will he be able to throw here for the rest of the spring? Just what's he going to do? Can he unseat? A lot of people's it's in their mind somewhere, in the back of their mind, right at the front of their mind. Can J.J. McCarthy unseat Cade McNamara for the opener against Colorado State on September the 3rd? How's that going to happen? Well, it's going to start, if that is something that you want, or you want to at least hear about that competition. It's going to start with Jim Harbaugh on Saturday saying, hey, McCarthy is coming along, and he was ready to, he's back. He's 100%. We held him back last week, something to the effects of he's good to go. He's ready to attack the whether you want to call it a rehab, sore shoulder, however it is. He's ready to go in full throwing sessions after spring, a week or two or whatever that is, the summer phase, and then he'll be ready to compete come fall for the starting job, and we'll go from there. Now, a lot of Michigan fans, wondering what's the depth chart look like right now? When if you couldn't go out there and take live snaps with the first team in the spring and compete with your opposite number or compete with your position group, it's hard to say that, J.J. McCarthy is, going to unseat Cade McNamara here today. I don't know, J.J. McCarthy. It's you could be the closest person to J.J. McCarthy, and you don't know. Let's be honest about that. But what he did, how much he was able to throw the ball here in spring, we're going to find out that on Saturday. I talked to somebody this week that told me not to worry about J.J. McCarthy. Things were progressing well on that front. The injury related. And so I'm expecting, after what I have heard, that you're going to hear Jim Harbaugh after that spring game say that in pretty quick order that McCarthy's looking good, feeling good, and ready to go for the rest of the spring and summer and fall. But we'll wait till Saturday to see that. But to me, that's one of the big pressing questions. I would think you as well out there, the injuries, and to certain, these are some of the biggest names, a couple on offense, one on defense, probably some more there as well that we could talk about. The other biggest question heading into spring was going to be replacing the guy who looks like he's going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft coming up a month from today. Is that right? Month from today, the NFL draft, when Aiden Hutchinson's name is expected to be called by the Jacksonville Jaguars. If not, I think the Lions would take their card and run it on up there and say, hey, here it is, Aiden Hutchinson. And then David Ajabo, injury with the Achilles, probably not a top 10 pick. Who knows, even a first-round pick, but somewhere, maybe late in the first round, maybe second round there for David Ajabo. But the point is, replacing the production of two outstanding rush ends in Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. Who are those guys? Is it Taylor Upshaw? Is it Mike Morris? Do you keep going down the list? We're going to hear all of these guys' names. Will we get some clarity? I think we already have got some clarity when Jim Harbaugh says that he thinks Mike Morris can be the next Aiden Hutchinson. That feels to me like you're going to have Mike Morris as your starting left defensive end come September the 3rd. Now, if I was making out my depth chart right now, everybody else making out their depth chart, they're going to put old Mike Morris in there, number 90, and they're going to put him in there. Unless something changes, we hear something on Saturday. And I also think a guy that took a lot of snaps behind Hutchinson and Ajabo, Taylor Upshaw, number 91, I would put him on the other side. Now, where Braden McGregor, Jalen Harrell, who also took a lot of snaps behind those guys last year, fits into that equation, right? I mean, that's what we're looking to find out. Harrell was in there, and sometimes more than Ajabo when it looked like it was going to be a run-heavy offense. So maybe Harrell's ready for more snaps. Maybe he's ready to be a 3-down defensive end. Maybe there'll be more of a rotation. We'll get to that. Jesse Minter, the new defensive coordinator, talks about that. We'll play some of that audio for you here coming up, and the video as well. The other big question here is just the changeover from the coaches. Mike Elston comes in, the former Wolverine, on the defensive line for Sean Nua. Josh Gaddis is down to the U, and Matt Weiss and Sharon Moore as the co-offensive coordinators. I mentioned Minter, Clinksdale, co-defensive coordinator. So you get a lot of new coaches in here with Mike McDonald going to the Ravens. A lot of turnover there with the coaches, and that's a big question for the spring game to talk about that, the coaches, and it's big always when you're going to have that kind of turnover with your coaches and certainly with your coordinators. But to a man, when everybody was asked last year, when Michigan, after they beat Ohio State, heading into the Big Ten title game, after they beat Iowa, heading into the college football playoffs, what was the difference this year? And they all pointed to the energy, the young staff and the energy, the music that was being played in spring ball, that camaraderie. They noticed it. Hutchinson was talking about that every time he went back to the spring, and he noticed the energy for 2021 in the spring. They've talked about that. There have been a few players and coaches that have been available here in the spring. They have talked about how they have matched that energy. They're saying the right things about knowing how difficult it is to get there, and it's even more difficult staying there, talking about beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten, getting to the college football playoffs. Yeah, there was a breakthrough, but it's going to be harder to do it again, harder to repeat. That's across the board in sports. There is also the theory that once you do get there and you break the seal and you look at the returning team, and that's why there is so would there be so much optimism if Michigan was unsettled at the quarterback position, offensive line? No, there wouldn't be. You'd say, hey, there's some promise. Let's see what happens. But this offense is loaded. The schedule looks really good. So and there's always a lot of enthusiasm about Michigan football. There should be a lot of enthusiasm about Michigan football after going to the college football playoff, the schedule, and the players that they have returning. That's quite a combination for you to feel good and get you into the offseason and take you there. That's the way I'm feeling about it. If at any point you wanted to jump in and leave a question while we are live, you can do that. I'd say put a question in after we're live. You could do that as well. You go to my Twitter feed, you see that's down in the left corner of the screen. If you're listening at Dennis Fithian, if you go there on Twitter, there is a way to leave me a direct message. There's a little envelope on the screen. I don't have to be following you. You don't have to be following me, but you can just punch in right there and leave me a question. I check that daily. I was going to say hourly. That's not accurate, but at least once a day, I'm popping in there to see what kind of DMs I have. I saw one yesterday from old radio listener Hadley. Sent me a DM. It was good to hear from him. Okay, let's hear from, speaking of one of those burning questions with Michigan football, it is with the new offense and defensive coordinator. Well, here's your new defensive coordinator, and this is Jesse Minter talking about what's going down with the Wolverines here.
I think it's a relentless, competitive group that thrives in situational football, plays with an edge, plays with a chip on our shoulder. I think it's going to be a team defense where, you do what's best for the team, but also where, we'll try to do things to showcase different guys every week. And, maybe a little bit more versatile in that regard, where you don't have like that one guy that's going to get 12, 15 sacks or the two guys. So I think it's just going to be a strong camaraderie, guys that play for each other and play really hard and play really fast. And, hopefully that's something that the fans
enjoy. Sorry, I cut him off.
I think
yeah, well, there's Jesse Minter. Let me turn him down now. Thanks, Coach, for that question about how do you replace the production that you got from Ajabo and Hutchinson, team effort. But throwing out some of those keystone attributes that he's looking for. I think hustle, tenacious, all those things. Good stuff there from the coach. All right, that's where we were at on spring, where we had the questions about that. Let's add that in there. Those were the biggest questions. Now we take it to the next thing, and this is the news that came out yesterday. Michigan will have an honorary captain for the spring game 2022. Hey, cool. Who is it? It's Colin Kaepernick. So there's Colin Kaepernick holding up a maize and blue jersey. Most everybody watching this or listening will know that Colin Kaepernick was Jim Harbaugh's starting quarterback for Super Bowl 48, XLVII, or as it's sometimes called, the Harbaugh Bowl, because John Harbaugh was the coach of the Ravens. Again, probably things that you already know. Is this, hey, cool, let's just go out, give him some applause, move on. He's his former quarterback. This kind of happens all the time. Coaches and have to have played for Michigan. Yeah, there's a part of that. The other part of it is since 2016, Colin Kaepernick has been one of the hottest topics in sports talk and also in cable news. 2016, I think he was the number one topic in cable news and in sports talk. And that continued on. You had the president of the United States getting involved. You had a grievance filed by Kaepernick because he was not signed by another NFL team. He reached a settlement. There were commercials. And then even up to, I don't know, about a month ago, I saw a picture of Cap, might have been even more recent than that, him throwing some routes out there to some receivers, talking about still wanting to get another chance in the NFL. That was on his Twitter page. So this was not just going to be like, hey, everybody get over it. This was almost 6 years ago. This is just as a former player coming in. If anybody just thought about that, well, they didn't really understand how things work anywhere. Like this is now, and am I saying that the spring game should be canceled? People should be going crazy. Everybody should be in a tizzy. All those things. No. Uh, is there a chance for some positive dialogue to come along? With Kaepernick and what the point that he was trying to get across back in 2016. There is that opportunity, but just like what we have seen, it's both. I'll say for sports talk, my realm, for over 25 years, and then cable news. Most of the people that are employed in those two spots, they are entertainers, and they are they're looking for controversy, and you don't get very good dialogue when it comes down to the issues at hand. Here it comes down to a lot of name calling. You get off topic really quick. uh, left, you're right. Where's your politics? What do you think of the president? It's what about racial injustice? Or what about for the Kaepernick? He wasn't the perfect protester. The pig socks that he had. Some of the other things there that were a little offsetting, but Kaepernick, it goes along with what he did back there in 2016. That there's going to be, whether you want to say the controversy following him, certainly a lot of two different opinions that still people have not been able to sit down and talk about. Mostly, definitely in sports talk and cable news. It's not like you get great dialogue there, or you got people that are looking to hear the other side. I mean, I guess there is plenty of dialogue, but not any kind of let's meet you halfway. Is anybody changing their opinions? I think people at this point, they have dug in wherever they're at, and it can be very revealing. When you hear somebody out that now. Should this affect Michigan football at all? Probably, it probably will not. I don't think that there would be any planned protests at the Michigan spring game. I'm talking about from the players or from Kaepernick, but I don't know. I haven't talked to Kaepernick. They don't, from my memory, play the national anthem at the spring game. I don't remember. I've been to, I don't know, half dozen spring games. I don't remember the anthem, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe they do play the anthem, and maybe they will, and maybe the whole Michigan team will take a knee, and maybe this will become national news. And guess what? Guess what? It's not guess what. If Michigan plays an anthem and the whole team protests on Saturday, it becomes a national story. It might be, we'll probably, you've seen the snippets already, but Saturday, just seeing Kaepernick out at midfield as an honorary captain being announced at Michigan Stadium, that film will make its way certainly to the, I don't know, like Sports Center. It'll be there. If there's anything further that happens, any type of protests, any type of anything that you would say racial injustice, any kind of sign, pictures, I don't know, then it becomes national news. The cable news will take over and everything else, and you might have a story for the weekend. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much Jim Harbaugh has thought about that. I don't know how much he cares. Bring it on. Maybe he says, let's have it more PR for Michigan football. And you say that's bad PR. Good PR, bad PR, whatever. It could be just attention brought. You've got one. You've got some elements here that could that people have a lot of time to fill, so they're looking for stories. Jim Harbaugh is a big story filler, you know that. So is Colin Kaepernick. Two of those guys together on a football field. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in terms of any protests or comments on racial injustice or Kaepernick not being able to play quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be available to the media. If he is, those questions are going to be asked. So if he is, we could be in store for, I don't know, you say a weekend of controversy, a weekend of dialogue, a weekend of discussion about where we are at with all of this going all the way back to 2016. I can remember the game where Kaepernick took the knee. It was on a Friday night. I was doing a show 4 hours by myself in Detroit on Saturday. So when I woke up and saw this news on a Saturday morning, I had to think about, okay, well, what are going to be my thoughts here? What am I going to talk about? And I had my thoughts. And the one thing is, I say just 5.5 years ago, but previous to 2016, if you would have asked my thoughts about kneeling for the national anthem, it would have been different than it was an hour or two, certainly 4 or 5 hours after I did a show on Saturday to listen to people and how it affected their lives and just how they felt about it. Not that I'm that easy to flip on something that I've thought my entire life, but I had the empathy there. And I've continued with that, listening to the other side and trying to. And the other side, this case, is Black Americans and how they felt about police. And even if that whatever your opinion is, the 8 hours over that weekend that I had discussions about it, I was able to, it changed my views. There were a lot of different things that I hadn't thought about before. Again, not that I think Kaepernick was the best person for, but a lot of times you don't have what you say, the best person. Who even is the best person, for all that. So those are my thoughts. Comes down to Kaepernick and what could happen. Maybe we'll just, have a little nod of, hey, here he is at the spring game. Maybe he won't be available. Maybe Harbaugh won't say a whole lot. Maybe he'll just say, yeah, great to have Cap out there. Talk to our players. Anybody got anything else? And we just might move on. Hey, how's JJ McCarthy? There's as much chance, and I predict that's probably how it will go. So, but is there a lot being made about it? I think there's a lot potentially being made about it because there is some potential there. So, however you feel about that, if you don't like to hear about it, you don't like the negativity, or you don't like the the politics or anything else, just go to the spring game. Don't bring your headphones. Just go down there and watch the game. You don't have to worry about it. That kind of thing. So here it is coming up. We're just 2 days away. Michigan Stadium. It opens up at 11. Team in the stadium at 11:30. The Big Ten Network is going to crank things up at noon. What's going to happen down there? If you've never been to a spring game, well, you want to go tailgate, go down to Pioneer. You could party like it's the regular season, and people will be getting after it. There will be tailgates. There will be everything. There'll be flags flying. There'll be great tailgate food. They'll be getting after it. I've seen it. I participated in it, and it is it's got a little bit of a feel of opening day baseball tailgating because it's really cold, but the feeling of that vibe of hey, we have made it. It is spring. It is April, and even though it's going to be in the 40s, which isn't the best, certainly thinking about baseball or anything, but that our long, hard winter and over these last 2 years with everything that's been involved with the pandemic, that maybe we're on to something new. And so there'll be a lot of that kind of vibe down there. If you don't enjoy watching guys stretch or go through individual team drills that you're not going to be able to glean a lot out of, like, oh, hey, these guys are just hitting a tackling dummy. Yeah, these guys are going out for 5-yard passes. If you don't like that kind of stuff, well, then try to get there at noon. Around noon, maybe 12:30 is when we'll see a little bit more of, we'd say some scrimmaging. Certainly the guys going through, whether it's on offense or defense, you see some of that. And then, at the end, we are anticipating, let's say the end, maybe from 12:30 to 1 o'clock in there, are anticipating some, like a game. spring game. Still, they're probably not going to hit the quarterback. Might be just thud tackling, not, cranking guys up, knocking them down, getting them to the ground, those kind of things. But still, exciting stuff to watch. But that will be later on. If you're trying to time it out or whatever else, there it is for you. That's how it's going to work. And you could just sit home and watch it on TV. I'll have the DVR rolling. And I keep checking the weather for any changes. Still calling a high of 48 degrees, 10-mile-an-hour winds, 33 degrees I saw as a low. But by 11 o'clock, we're not going to have 48. So I would dress for it to be like in the 40s. 40s with a wind that could be 10 miles an hour that could make it feel like 30 degrees. That doesn't sound like it's fun for you. That doesn't. It does not sound fun to me. When I'm walking, I don't mind the weather. The perfect walking weather, I think, is 32 degrees. But that's having the sun out and having no wind. That's, to me, 32 degrees is great. But I'm not going to be walking around. We sit in the stadium, and if it feels like 30, that means there's going to be a 10-mile-an-hour wind. That's not going to be the most fun to sit out there. But you know what? You're tough. It's Michigan football. You haven't seen it in a while. Brave it. I've got my couple of things that I'll be taking to the spring game. Here are two of them. This is a Michigan football spring roster. Now, there may be some things that are available for you. You might just pull it up on your phone. Now, you might want to, and I thought about just doing this myself, screenshotting, because you never know with the internet. Even though there, could be between 10 and 40,000 people there. 40,000, we know how it's worked when it comes to Wi-Fi and whatever you're, just being able to get a signal there at Michigan Stadium. The possibility, even with a spring game, that you can get shut out that way, it is a possibility. So bring yourself a little hard copy, not the worst idea, or screenshotting a roster, not a bad idea either. But here it is. I'm going to go old school. I was able to fit it all. The roster on 2 pages, not so bad. That's it. That's what I'll be bringing. That and my phone. So there it is. All right, Trevor with some feedback right off the at the end here. He says he knows I'm a busy man, but you got to check out Jimmy Rolder on YouTube. Trust me, Dennis. Trust me, Trevor. There was a time when I was doing this show, since when Jimmy Rolder committed to Michigan, that I played his highlight tape, Huddle. I think that's the same thing as, it's not the exact same thing as YouTube, but I did see his highlights, and it was impressive. It was. There were a couple there where he was bringing the wood. He can run and he can hit. So, Jimmy Rolder, I think I watched Rolder and Raylan Wilson's. He's not coming in this year. He's a recruit. But I think that out of all, I'm just looking over at the defensive tape that I've watched. Derek Moore's was good. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. I think Rolder was, let's see, the most impressive. It was very impressive. I'm with you on that. Could he fit in and get into 2 deep, special teams, stalwart, those kind of things? I do think so. So yeah. I saw that, Trev. Great for the. I appreciate you looking out and giving me the advice on that. I'm with you. The Rolder tape is impressive, and I am with you on that. All right. So tomorrow we will really preview this spring game. Tell you what to look for and all of that. Trevor asking, where's Rolder committed? Jimmy Rolder? Let's see if that's what he's. Jimmy Rolder is committed to Michigan? Yes, he is. He's committed, signed. He will be on the field for Michigan coming up this year. So there you go. All right. Thanks for watching. That'll do it. Everybody have a great rest of their Thursday. We'll bring the energy. This quick reminder that coming up on Saturday, I've mentioned it a few times today, I am planning on going to the spring game. So I am going to the spring game, and then I'm going to make it back here to the Peach Mountain Studios afterwards, and I will have a post-game Michigan spring game broadcast. But that's not right when the game is over or whenever it's over on the Big Ten Network. I'm guessing around 4 o'clock. So I'm thinking, I'm planning on getting down there at 11 o'clock. The action's taking place at noon to 1, being able to get back to my car, which I'll probably park about a mile away. There's 20 minutes, takes me about normally a half hour to 20 minutes to a half hour to drive to the Peach Mountain studio, put all of that together, come back and crank up the broadcast around 4 o'clock. I'll know more. And just stay tuned. It's the best way to do it. All right. Thanks for watching. Maize and Blue review. We're there all day talking Michigan. We're here at 1 o'clock weekdays, and we'll be here Saturday as well after the Michigan spring game. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourself.